Welcome back to Subversive Preacher. This is the third Sunday of Easter season. And of course you know what the question is, don't you? It is, are your beliefs more like bubbles or ping pong balls? Now, just ride with me here on this little strain of imagination, won't you? Imagine that your religious beliefs and your spiritual ideas have the qualities of a bubble, a delicate, sparkling, transparent globe reflecting the colors of the rainbow while moving gracefully through the air. Or perhaps your religious beliefs and spiritual ideas have the qualities of a ping pong ball, smooth, clean, a tough skin, resilient sphere that bounces energetically among the obstacles of life, all the while withstanding the force used against it. Now, maybe your religious ideas about God are aptly symbolized by a ping pong ball, but your beliefs about Jesus or something else are more like bubbles, or vice versa. Perhaps your embrace of Christian ethics and baptismal values are like the ping pong ball, while your beliefs about how Christianity pontificates on the spiritual nature of the universe is more like a bubble. Carrying this metaphor way too far, I used to be an evangelist for the bubble over the ping pong ball, but as my beard got grayer and my hair fell out, I came to see them as only slightly different ways of getting to the same place. You see, they both contain the same thing in the end. Pop a bubble or cut open a ping pong ball, and inside is, well, nothing. Now, I'm not suggesting that all of our religious beliefs contain nothing, not exactly. You may remember that I like to make a big deal about the difference between the word faith and the word belief. In common usage, they have come to mean essentially the same thing. But if we travel back to our ancient wisdom and to the Hebrew heritage, we are reminded that they are very different. Faith refers to an actual experience, while belief is the attempt to describe that experience or to imagine what that experience means to our lives. Faith is the experience itself, and belief is the description of the experience and an attempt to say what it means. So, for example, let's say that you have been struggling with a dilemma, something you have to make a decision about that seems hugely important with an impact that is well beyond your own life. You have been weighing all the issues, but nothing has come to you to settle your decision on one side or another. Then one evening, you have the joy of being taken up into the colors of the sun and the sky and the water. And the light disappears over the horizon. It's the arrival of evening just like every other evening, but somehow this one, something about it is almost out of body and it holds you in the moment. It embraces you, and then you know. You know exactly what you're going to do. Now, if you tried to describe that experience and why you think it held a message of resolve for you, you could not do it, not adequately. Describing it is your belief, but the experience of it is your faith. Faith is an experience of being held in the moment with God. It is an experience that causes us to hold on to God in an absolute kind of way in that moment. It doesn't mean that we won't question it or abandon it later, but that the moment in the moment, it feels as if we are held within the holy or the sacred. Now, the Hebrew word for faith is rooted in that experience of holding on to or being held in the moment with God. Belief is the latter explanation of the experience and the effort to discern what that experience says to us about ourselves and our lives. Now, the other category in all this, of course, is creed or dogma, doctrine, or theology. They are all an effort to describe an historic religious experience, like the resurrection, and then explain the universal meaning of that historic experience. Creed takes an individual's or a community's historic experience and attempts to explain it and apply it universally, years, decades, or even centuries later. When we unravel the intestines of religious doctrine, whether it is hardened orthodoxy or morphine Pentecostalism or amorphous New Age agnosticism, we find the same thing. Nothing. That's because God will not be contained in our religions. None of them. God is an experience in real time, in the moment. But God is not captured or held by descriptions of the moment. Remember, in our tradition, the first and primary experience we have of God is of Moses in the burning bush. Moses, like all of us, wants some clarity and definition of this God who he has just met and who is asking him to risk his life and go back to Egypt and lead a slave rebellion. Who are you? Moses wants to know. What kind of power do you have? Where's your territory, God? Moses insists on knowing. And God answers, listen, I will be who I will be. So our very first introduction to God asserts that God is beyond definition, beyond imagination, beyond limitation, beyond explanation, beyond any and all formulas that we have to try to help us understand. And yet, for the next 3,000 years, we human beings have been arguing among ourselves about who knows God best and who has the truth about God. And that's what I mean about the ping pong ball and the bubble holding the same empty space. Faith. Faith is the experience of being held in the moment with God. And it tells us nothing about what God is or what God does or about the nature of Jesus or Buddha or Muhammad. We stand in the moment of faith and we say yes or no to the experience. Then, if we have a safe community within which to do it, we'll talk about what we experienced and what it means to us. And again, if it's safe, we ponder what any and all of it means. So, when we come to a gospel story like the one we have today from Luke, we're not being asked to say yes or no to the story. We're being invited to wonder or ponder if this story resonates in any way with our own encounters with the holy. The resurrection stories are not something we have to believe or to reject as if written words or the oral stories of the written words are the experience itself. Rather, they are the stories that seek to evoke our own experiences of the holy and cause us to remember and to wonder. Now that Lee Young Lee poem remembers the experience of his father's presence in the aftermath of his father's death, and remembers it in the experience of eating steamed gingered trout with his family, the experience The reminder of the experience is all mixed together and provoked by a shared meal. No belief, nor any set of beliefs, conveyed in doctrines or creeds, will ever be able to give us an experience of standing in the moment with God. All we can do is use our spiritual practice exercised within community to open our hearts and open our minds so that we see and hear and feel the small moments to which we are normally blind or deaf. And then when we get tender and we get open, God will do the rest. So whether our beliefs are best described as a ping pong ball, which is smooth, tough, and resilient, or a bubble, delicate, graceful, pretty, it's important for us to remember that our beliefs are only descriptions and not the experience itself. Our beliefs are merely our best effort to say what we think our moment with God, our moments with God, are all about and what they mean for our lives. And then, and here's the most important part, we need to be ready when it's time to let them go so that we can climb back into our next moment with God. Peace be with you. Thanks for being here.